Happy Friday. Welcome back to Recoup. Today is Friday, September 26th, 2025. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. This is our Friday weekly recap where we cover what was shipped in the last week with Recoup and talk about planning for what we're going to be doing next week. In this, well, starting off how we always do. In one word, Sid, how you feeling today? In one sentence, what do you need today?
Oh, I'm feeling scientific. Talking about evals, hypothesis, the scientific theory. I watched this show called Genius on, I forget where it was, maybe Hulu or some shit, about Albert Einstein. Great series. Directed by Ron Howard. It's like half PBS documentary style, but the other, like also storyline. It's fucking genius. Yeah,
Done.
literally. Da-da-da, yeah. But no, it was really awesome. It also like made me go down rabbit holes with ChatGPT about like math and algorithms and inventing new math. And then I started to be like, I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, I'm inventing new math with AI, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah. So one sentence, I'm feeling good and mathematical.
And what do you need?
Oh, what do I need? I just need I need more I need to keep going down the excitement snowball of evals.
On my side, I am feeling calm and I need the data you promised me so that way I can come into next week shipping the evals and moving forward. We've been talking a little bit about evals, so I'm going to share screen and talk through what I shipped recently. So this week we had feedback from our enterprise customers, and the goal that I have is to improve the system so that way we are keeping our enterprise customers happy so that they want to continue to subscribe to the Recoup product. And so the first thing I did was I fixed a very low-hanging fruit error. There was an error that was known inside of the AI SDK. I shipped a fix for that. We don't need to go too deep down that rabbit hole. It was a known fix. Then I started looking at the list and started to think about changes I wanted to make to the system prompts. And as I was thinking about changing the system prompt, I started to think what I don't want to do is create a game of whack-a-mole where I fix the prompt for one and it's perfect, but then for all these other prompts, it does not perform well. And so then I said, okay, how can we create a baseline scoring so that any change that we make, we can judge that it is improving the metrics that we're tracking. Devs have been doing this since the start of programming, unit tests. With LLMs, unit tests are called evals. And so I started writing evals. And so now we have a few evals in here. The first one I wrote was first week album sales. And so every single time Sid, Veerball, or myself ship code, it auto runs these evals. And so actually I went into one of my pull requests, but we can go into all the stuff that Veerball shipped today. And 2 hours ago, Veerball shipped stuff probably not related to the LLM. So it likely should not change the scoring from our evals. But you can see over here, the evals are tracking improvements in regressions. They might be very small, like this is +1 percentage point on the average. Prompt tokens, I think the most important one is the answer correctness, what we're actually scoring on. Number of LLM calls, number of tool calls, errors. Most of this is noise, I think, to us. We don't care about the duration. For the most part, tokens, completion tokens. The only thing that we really care about is this top level score, which is fluctuating 1 percentage point across most of these, except for album sales, which is varying 50, which tells me that this one is one that we need to make more stable, and I agree. This is one where if you ask, how were the first week album sales for Halsey's album, sometimes it'll come back and say, I don't have that info available. And other times it'll go out and it'll search the web and then it'll come back with an actual answer. And so this is a point where, okay, because the scores are drastically changing, we can update the system prompt to create stability. And once we have that stability, we won't see a 50-point swing. You can see here, last one we had a 90% on the factuality, and this time we had a 40. And then it's likely saying exactly what I said. Expected. Expected is this. This actually looks like it did the right thing. So the eval scored 0 when I wouldn't have scored it as 0. This is the one for Halsey. It says, I didn't recognize it. Do you mean a different album title? And then our expected is this. And so it just didn't call albums. We can dig into the score and why it gave what it did right here. And if you click on factuality, it'll take in the expected, the input, and then it goes down here into a choice and its rationale. Both the experts and the submitted answer agree on the number. The pure sales, the expert states, while the submission, there's a slight numerical discrepancy between 1.14 million and 1.134 million. It's a rounding error on the score of millions. We're talking it's 70,000 or 6,000, but on the scale of millions, it's not much. Streams, the expert mentions a specific million of streams, while the submission statement is drastically lower. So there's discrepancies based off of the sources that are being pulled. And so that is why, even though it did give an answer that would have likely been fine for our human customers, based off of the expected output that we said, there was some of the numbers were enough to drop us down to a 0% in terms of factuality. I think the most important one to glean from here is where it's just not giving us an answer at all. And this is what I mostly want to change. But these are examples of those. And then where we go from here is you can then select any of the evals, monthly trackers. And then in the top, it shows our graph. You can see this one's a flat line, which is what we'd love to see. No change up or down, which means that the LLM is consistently giving us the same answer, regardless of how many times it's running. And over time, as we're changing the product, it is not increasing or decreasing. If we're not focused on this, it shouldn't be changing. So this is an example of where we want to get all of them to. If we're not trying to change it, it should be a flat line. Spotify followers should be similar. Let's see if it is. It's more or less flat. It's varying in the 60s, slight variation, but you compare it to the first one that we were looking at. The first one that we were looking at is all over the place. This is lots of curves. It goes down to 0. It goes up to 65. It'll go up to 90. This is not a flat line. Any third grader story could tell us this. It is not a flat line. And so this is what we want to be improving. I'll stop there on talking about, the last thing I'll show is what Veerball did. Veerball's main ship this week was focused on 2 customers. One customer from our enterprise client wanted pinning of artists. And so now if you go into Recoup, on the right side, I have 2 pinned artists. If I say Alex Paul is not important, I can unpin him. And what this allows me to do is if I'm managing a ton of artists, but this week I really need to focus on Sweetman, or I really need to focus on Julius Black, I can highlight those artists and then they come up to my pin section. That way it sorts them into what my preferences are while still allowing me to continue out to grow my catalog. The other thing that Veerball shipped was expanding this recent chat section. Yoshiro Mare from here in Cali, Colombia, reported when he has the call to action pop up on his smaller screen Mac, he was not able to see a lot of recent chats. So Veerball has reduced the size of the logo, has made some of these things closer, has made the recent chats closer to make it so that musicians, our customers, can come in and see way more of their recent chats, even if they're being prompted to subscribe to that pro tier. With that, jumping into what we want to do for next week. Sid, any feedback on what we shipped before we go into talking about next week?
No, I love it so much. Something that I wrote down, which would help me as I go into more customer calls, is what questions would you like me to ask customers in order to give you better signal into how to write evals and what matters to them? For example, you had mentioned in the Taylor Swift one, it was a 70,000 difference, and you said it wasn't that big of a difference, but my question, like in my head, was like, how do we know that it's not a big deal to our users? We're assuming that it's not a big deal, and
Right.
what data is a big deal that can't be incorrect when they query, or it will make them lose trust?
Great question. First thought is asking them what their source of truth is. The more we know how they're judging what is correct and incorrect, we can pull in the same data sets as them or prioritize those data sets. So that way we're returning the exact same. If they are querying Spotify's API, let's prioritize Spotify's API. If they're searching the web and getting the first thing from the web, let's do that. If they're pulling from Chartmetric, let's do that. Because searching the web, each article has a different number based off of where they're pulling from.
Yeah,
Some
but I agree. I agree. Finding the source of truth, and also like dependent on the query, what matters, right? Like if Taylor Swift isn't their artist and they're just curious, how valuable is it that it's 70,000 off versus if they're asking how many sales did my artist get, probably has more weight in the differentiation of, they want exact numbers for their shit versus how are they going to get exact numbers for somebody else if they don't have the sort of truth that's being used. So I think, yeah, but anyways, going back to what your question was, like you said, before we move on to next week, I think just thinking through as you start to do evals, where are you making assumptions that I can help not assume, like I can help by asking customers, giving you more clarity where there may be assumptions.
What I like about the evals right now is, in my mind, that should not have been a 0%, but it is a 0%, and you're explaining why. In my mind, 70,000 is not big. It shouldn't have been a 0, but it does highlight those numbers were different. If we're checking for factually correct numbers, we need those numbers to be correct. The eval needs to have that high scoring standard, and if it's incorrect, I report that to you. You get the source of truth from the customer. I'm glad that the eval has a high standard. That way it's not on me to say that 70,000 doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and being able to, like, let's start with a high standard and then decide from there if we can lower it, depending on the query and the purpose. And the other question that I had is, I noticed that, like, you said that there was. I agree with you that the highest value metric was that top line in the evals, and that there was like a lot of noise underneath it on duration, et cetera, et cetera. The question that I had is are you not tracking it because it's noise, or it's hard to set up, or was it just not something you got around to?
What do you mean?
Like, for example, I know like the amount of tool calls was not being tracked, but in order to answer how many album titles, they had to call the search tool.
Correct.
So we're just not tracking that. And what is the reasoning? What is the reasoning we're not tracking that?
I haven't included it in one. I don't know how they are calculating tool calls on their side for them to display it here. I'm not sure what they're doing to add this number up. For us, we can write our own evals where we are returning the number of tool calls and which tool calls, and I could judge that on my side for this top line number. Other answer is, I have found, since diving deeper into the Brain Trust docs within the past 24, 48 hours, so not a long time, I found that they have this integration with Vercel AI SDK. And so with their V5, which we're on V5, potentially we just need to wrap our generate text calls with Brain Trust, and then it is then able to get all those answers of tool calls and giving us more. Any number in here that's a 0, errors, LLM errors, tool calls, those 0 numbers, I think my gut feeling is if we wrap it in their integration, it will be able to accurately track them. Do you agree, or do you think that I'm thinking down an incorrect line?
No, I agree, and I think my question was trying to understand the reasoning why we're not tracking.
I just don't think I think we're focusing on the top line. That's why we wrote the eval. These other things are like, maybe it matters how many tokens are being used, but we care about the customer happiness. And right now, tokens are getting cheaper and cheaper for us. So if tokens are fluctuating, how does that impact us?
I think that I agree with you. We should we're about the top line. I also agree with you with, if there's the easiest way to integrate all of this other data, go down that path. Like, instead of trying to set up evals perfectly before we run any, like the way that you executed this is 100% the correct way. I just wanted to get clarity on moving forward. I in my experience, there's going to be a time in which that data will come into play and be valuable, because it'll tell us stories about why is our eval not increasing, and it'll be, oh well, it's only calling two tools, and we need it to call 4, and we so now like so I think that data will come in handy, but again, using the Vercel SDK integration of it to make it as simple as to add that. I also think that like one of the big blockers that I'm finding on my demos is time to first token. And I know that Verbal's been trying to mess with it and et cetera, et cetera. To the point where like the big issue was like we would be on a demo waiting for it to go, and so users would naturally just start clicking other things and move around, and then that's where I found the issue of they couldn't get back to their old chats because they were clicking around. So like that's been fixed. I know Verbal just shipped that, but what I'm realizing is that people's attention span, anything after 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and they just start clicking and they start doing other things. We don't have them for anything longer. And so so I think like duration is going to be a valuable metric to improve over time, like over the next, couple of months.
Copy. So my goal coming into next week is going to be catalog related queries. Sid's going to send me input prompts and what they're expecting, so that way the record labels can ask questions about their entire catalog of tens or hundreds of thousands of songs, ask queries about opportunities that are coming in. Hey, X company wants us to give them songs for X campaign. Which songs should we send them? That way the LLM can parse the entire catalog, analyze the opportunity, do research on the songs in the catalog to be able to deliver the work that might take an executive hours or days or an entire week to do in a matter of seconds or minutes. That's going to be my main focus, is writing those evals, creating a baseline, and then from there being able to make specific tools or agents to increase that. On Beerball's side, I think I'm going to keep him where he is, of do the CSV file, get other file uploads as small low-hanging fruit queries come in from our enterprise customers, give those to Beerball within a 24-hour iteration. He's got a prototype out. That way you can continue to go from, I had a call with someone on the enterprise team, they gave us this feature request. We added that feature request in as fast of a loop as possible so that each individual member that you're having a call with feels like they are a priority to our team, and they can see that because we're listening and we're shipping on a very fast cadence.
Agreed. And then I just want to ask you about, well, you'll write the tickets for Verbal when it comes to next week, right? So I can send you over the tickets that I wrote, and you can decide whether to give it to him, whether to not, and whether to save it for later.
For the new feature request?
Yeah, for like the little new feature. Like there was like some bug things, there was a new feature request, and then there's like the big one that we discussed, but that I don't think obviously you have that. You're working on the evals for like the catalog one, but I'm saying like for the other ones, like file management, a tool for editing files, all those little things, send it to him.
Right.
I created a Slack channel called Bug Requests. I don't know if you saw it.
I think I saw it. I have not opened it, but I do see the bugs tracker. I'm open.
It's a bug tracker, and I basically set it up as like, what?
There's nothing in here right now, right?
Nothing in here now. I just set it up, and I wanted to get your approval before I started filling it up. Because right now I'm like sending you guys like I'll either like DM you or DM both of you, or there's not really a place for me to just like put all of like hey, I got feedback from this call. Here's the issues that I had, and be able to track it. So I wanted to. So I'll just throw all of the stuff there of like any new little things or whatever, and then let me know if you want me to like if it's okay to keep there, or if you want me to add it to linear, or if let Verbal do that.
Yeah, let us add it to linear. I think you communicating in your channel is perfect. You communicate in the channel. I communicate with Veerball. Do this one. Veerball takes it, adds it to linear. Veerball ships the ticket. You communicate to the customer that it's been updated.
Perfect. All right, cool. So yeah, I'll start using that. And then the other question that I had for you is, Do you think it's necessary to add the search API that just came out?
Potentially. I didn't get to finish reading the article last night, so I didn't see how they did it. Let me see if I can find it in their list of models. Likely it's going to be the best thing that they have, so we should likely update to it. I just need to, let me see if I can find it real quick. It looks like they have now changed how they are documenting it. Before they had like a deep research, they had a pro, they had a sonar, and now it looks like they just have search. It looks like it's a new API endpoint that we are not using. Let me see how we're doing MCP tools per web. Web search is using our web search tool, which is then calling Sonar Pro instead of their Fetch Perplexity API. So right now we're calling their chat completions API. Now it looks like they're using this new search API. So what I initial thought is, let's update the simple web search tool to use this new API, and let's keep the deep web search tool using what it already has. I don't know if they're sunsetting their deep research or what they're doing with it, but I don't see it here anymore. Deep research. Yeah, this is the old one, the Perplexity Sonar API. I'm curious how deep research lives here, or if they're now just focused on search, and if search is going to give on par results with, maybe it was multi-query, maybe multi-query, no. I'm curious, I guess initial thought is, yeah, let me add that Veerball updates the Perplexity search.
And then is Beerball also tracking evals? Is he on the same page as that? Like if he updates,
I don't think Veerball is doing anything that is evals related for now. Perplexity is we should write some evals for Perplexity to judge the success before and after. Maybe he's on. I would prefer him being on UI stuff, like the pinning, CSV uploads. These are things
that's
that
not going to change the eval.
The LLM response, yes, stuff that's ideally not touching LLM stuff, and that's how I'm thinking we divide up at least next week. Keep our roles fluid. Don't put us in any boxes. But for the next week, anything that's going to change LLM response on me. So maybe I do handle Perplexity search, and anything that is more UI related, like a new CSV upload, making it so that there's stuff going on the screen so that people don't get distracted if it takes 3 seconds for the chat response, stuff like that, give to Veerball.
Cool. I agree. And also, like, I think thinking through the catalog enhancement agent, like that's going to require search. And the best results I got was through Perplexity.
Yes.
So you'll probably end up having to add that just because of that. Anyway.
It's a good call. Yeah, I'll remove it from Veerball and put it on my side. That's a good catch early on.
All right, cool. And then for me, I have more calls set up for next week. And I'm just going to continue this flow of like going through user calls, sending you guys information, documenting the larger requests so that we can think through these workflows. Or actually, another question that I had is, Sweet, before we go, I know it's close, but you mentioned that the report is something that you know we can't do, but it was something that we requested. Tracking change over time to for a reporting. Is that something that Veerball can handle while you're on the other thing? Like, and is there a simple solution to tracking? Like, is it updating the file management system to be able to edit files and use them during reporting itself?
Yeah, I think a new tool for editing text files is a missing piece. And once we have that, it's an agent prompt with a scheduled action, a scheduled task that runs daily, weekly, monthly to check the latest value, search the web for the new value, add the new value, and then tell me what the delta is between the latest and the new value that it got. So the only tool that's missing is the ability to edit so that the LLM can edit the text files that are there.
So I'll forward you the 2 tickets that I started that I think you could pass to Revolve, which is like the file management and file parsing, and then everything else will be just like me just sending random things throughout the week.
Perfect. 2 minutes ago, my godfather, Uncle Scott, tuned in from LinkedIn. Thank you, Uncle Scott. It's good to see you here. Giving you
Scott,
a quick
hey.
shout out. I really am glad that you're taking these calls. I think, Sid, you focusing on enterprise, hearing them, understanding them, I think you getting on calls with them is the most important thing. So I'm glad that you did it this past week. I think it filled up our backlog, prevented us from going. If you didn't give me that, I would have gone and built out Farcaster stuff and other integrations. And so you getting on those calls and keeping your attention on what they need, I think is exactly where we need to be. And so I'm glad you did it last week. I'm glad you're rolling it over into this week. And I just wanted to express gratitude that I think you're focused exactly where you need to be.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate you running evals. I think that is the single thing. I think that is the single differentiating thing that if we get really good at them, like it's going to be the step function of what separates us from every other music AI half-baked tool is us us being just fucking incredible at evals. And like,
I'm agreeing with you slowly over time.
I mean, I've been just saying it for the last year, and it took,
it took you adding in brain trust, you being very patient with me, and then all of a sudden, one day out of the blue, I'm like, I've got evals in here now.
I'm waiting for the day you're like, oh, graph frag, I get it now.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on that. So wait another 12 months and you'll see.
You know what it is? I think what the difference is, what's about to start happening is we're about to start dealing with
large data sets.
Large data sets across lots of artists, across lots of random user queries, across, that's where things are going to start to, like, context management is going to get really tough if we don't have the right tooling in place. We can't throw 100,000 rows CSV in 200,000 rows CSVs in,
Correct.
All right, cool. I appreciate you. I know it's 2:59, so take it away.
Hope you guys have a great weekend. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you have not already given Recoup a try, we have a brand new homepage you should check out. If you go to recoupable.com, this was something that Sid shipped, I believe, this week that we didn't even highlight on the call today. It's got some beautiful robots, grassy scene, a whole bunch of new lore added. Make sure you check it out. And we will be back on Monday. Have a happy weekend, everybody, and